What's up, everybody? My name is Josh LaFleur from Late Start Piano. If you have been playing piano for a little while, maybe a week, a month, 6 months, a year, then you have had practice days where you feel like they did not go well. You have had quote unquote bad practice days. Maybe you felt like you regressed a little bit from where you were the prior day. Maybe you felt like your fingers were slow or sloppy. Maybe you felt like you didn't have the hand coordination that you did yesterday. Whatever the reason is, for whatever reason, you're feeling like today, the last practice session you just had was a bad practice session. I'm here to explain to you why no practice session is bad, even if you feel like you didn't get everything you wanted to accomplish, and why it's still important that you practice every single day. So, point number one, even if you did have a bad practice session, you showed up. And showing up is huge when it comes to your consistency. Even if you have 25 bad practice sessions in a row, that is infinitely better than if you just did not play piano for 25 days in a row. So even something that's bad, where your fingers aren't working, like I said earlier, your hand coordination is not together, you can't play a certain measure of a song that you could play yesterday, even if that's all the case, those practice sessions are still infinitely better than not practicing at all. And in fact, it's actually kind of a good thing. It's kind of counterintuitive, but it's a good thing if you are struggling, even if you had it down yesterday, because that means you now have to relearn it. And whenever you relearn something, if you revisit something, the chance of it being remembered long term increases greatly, right? So if you, let's say, you know measures 1 through 5, and you never learned the song before, and yesterday you just started it and you had measures 1 through 5 down when you stopped practicing for the day. Then you go back the next day and you can't get past measure 2. So you forgot measures 3 through 5. It's okay, because now you can relearn them. And when you relearn those measures, now they're going to be much more likely to stay with you long term. And if you relearn something, you also build a lot more neurons in your brain that you can, again, understand the topic a lot more deeply as well. So you can remember it long term, and you can also understand it better, and you will be able to play it better in the future. Point number 2 is you're building up your mental toughness. So, of course, everybody has days, me included, where they feel like they don't want to practice the piano. They had a long day at work, they have a lot of family obligations, they just have a lot going on in life, period, and they feel like they don't want to practice the piano right now. And what most people do when they have this feeling of that they don't want to practice is they don't practice. Very small percentage of people practice when they don't feel like it. And when you do that, when you show up to the piano, even when you don't feel like it, you're building this mental toughness. So that way, when the next day comes, whether it's the next day or a month from now, where you have that same feeling like you don't want to practice, it's not going to matter as much. It's not going to be as difficult for you, because you've already built up this mental toughness to get over that and practice anyway. And like I just told you in the first point, when you are practicing, even when you don't want to, even if it's a bad practice session, even if you feel like you're not doing well, it's still much better than not practicing at all. So you're going to be building this consistency piece. You're also going to be building this mental toughness piece. And again, it's actually a good thing if you need to relearn pieces on the piano for all the reasons I said previously. Third point is you did get better. So you did get better at the piano. Again, even if you feel like you had a bad practice session, you feel like you regressed, it doesn't matter. You did get better because you practiced. Even if it's only for 10 minutes, 20 minutes for the day that you practiced and you feel like you didn't get a lot accomplished, as long as you are focused on the task at hand, so you did not spend that time just scrolling on your phone or playing songs that you already know, as long as you were focused in your practice routine and you were working on something that you hadn't quite learned yet, then you are getting better, and even if you don't realize it. And it's kind of like investing, for those of you who are familiar maybe with the stock market or you've done any kind of investing before. It's similar to that. You put in a certain amount up front, which is your practice routine, and then you expect to get paid dividends on the back end. You expect your investment to grow and you make more on the back end, right? Same with piano practice. You put in 20 minutes per day, every single day, 7 days a week, and a year from now, you get all the dividends, you get all of your return on investment, your ROI, as they call it. You get all your return on investment, and then all of a sudden, it's like, damn, you realize I have gotten a lot better. You'll say to yourself, I couldn't see it within the first week, within the first 6 months, but now a year later, a year of consistent, dedicated practice, now I can see it. Now I can see how much I have improved, and you're going to feel really good about yourself, and you're going to be able to play the piano much, much better, and you're going to be able to play a lot of the songs that you love and know. So always keep that in mind when you have those bad practice session days, that you are getting better. No such thing as a bad practice session. As long as you're staying focused, doing what you're supposed to be doing, then it's a good practice session no matter what. Fourth point is if you are competitive. Say you are somebody who maybe you were a prior athlete, maybe you are just a competitive type. You want to beat out other people, you want to beat out yourself. You can also use this to your advantage. So when you feel like you had a bad practice session or you feel like you don't want to practice, use your competitive edge. Think about all the other people, like I just told you. Think about all the other people when they feel like they don't want to practice that day. What do? They don't practice. And you can use that as motivation. You can think of if you're familiar with David Goggins, right? He's a big motivational, kind of slap you upside the head type of individual. You can think of somebody like him, and he's swearing into the microphone while he's running shirtless 300 miles. You can think of that as the same way. You can think of, okay, these MFers aren't practicing right now. They're off, they're at the bar, they are with their friends, they are scrolling on TikTok, scrolling on Instagram, whatever it is. They're doing that. I'm going to go ahead and practice right now, even though I don't want to. And you can use that as a competitive edge to get you over the hump mentally so that you can beat out all the other people who aren't practicing, and you can practice to make sure you stay consistent. Even if you're not super competitive, let's say you're not an athlete type, you're not a David Goggins type of individual, you can try to be competitive with yourself. So you can say, if I was 5 years from now, me, with the thought that you are a person who's trying to get better over time, right? Let's say you're a person who has goals, you want to get better, you have a future that you have in mind. You can think of, okay, if I was 5 years from now, me, and I was this person, and I was very dedicated and disciplined and strong and confident and all of those things, what would that person do right now? And the answer is they would practice. They would have that confidence, they would have the mental discipline, the mental toughness, the discipline. They would have all of those things where they would practice anyway. So even if you're not necessarily competitive with other people, you can always be more competitive with yourself, right? And again, no bad practice session is really bad as long as you're staying focused, as long as you're working on something that you're supposed to be working on. You have your timer up, right? So let's say you're only practicing for 10 minutes. You have your whole practice schedule outlined. So you're going to do 2 minutes of a warm-up, you're going to do 2 minutes of arpeggio work, and then the rest of the time, 6 minutes is going to be working on your song. That's just an example, but you want to have all of these things structured out so you're not wasting any time that you have at the piano, because if you're an adult, you probably have a lot going on. You probably have a family, you have a full-time job, you have kids, you have a wife, you have a husband, you have community obligations. There's a lot going on as an adult. And if you are starting later in life, late start piano, if you're starting later in life as an adult, then it can be a lot more difficult to find the time to practice. So when you do have time, when you do have that blocked out in your schedule, you need to make sure you're making the best use of it as you possibly can. With all that said, talking about adult beginner piano players, I do have a free guide on my website. Link is down below. We'll be talking about practice strategies, music theory, and your mindset and approach. To get that, again, the link is down below, completely free. In addition, I am offering lessons right now via Zoom. To get started with those, send me an email. Link is down below. Happy practicing. My name is Josh with Late Start Piano.